we so often attribute value to status in that kind of weird example of the semi truck,
right,
without realizing it's still a guy or a girl. It's still a person in that seat, whether they're an executive or they're a super successful entrepreneur or they're a complete and total failure. It's just a person still at the end of the day that has hopes and dreams and feelings. And when you lose sight of that reality, when you lose sight that the person behind the wheel of a semi-truck or the vice president of a major retail organization is still just a person, man, you lose sight on pretty much everything.
Okay, welcome to the Blake Technologies podcast. I am your host, Blake Carford, and the founder of the Savesy app that you can find on the mobile app store on Apple. I'm here with Matthew Dickerson, and he's the founder of the Tdooz mobile app that you can also download on both the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store, right?
Correct.
That is awesome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so one thing that I'm very interested in, so Matthew is a neighbor of mine in the Kiln building here in southern Utah. Which is like a really fun environment for startups, and Tdooz is a startup, mobile technology company.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to learn more about like the beginnings of this, the Tdooz app, and kind of where this idea came from. I would also like to cover some of the beginnings of Matthew and like what makes you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I'd like to, in front of the audience, pick your brain a little bit and maybe get some advice on some things.
Love it.
And yeah, we can kind of just go about talking about business and have some fun here.
Great.
Yeah. So tell us about Tdooz. What's this? What does it do, and what problems does it solve?
Yeah. So Tdooz is a mobile app, like you mentioned. We kind of commonly, our 5-second pitch is it's Uber for home services. So the idea was born. Let me start there since you had asked that question. The idea was born almost 4 years ago. Actually, I was living in Arizona at the time, and I was trying to book just some simple home services, find a landscaper, and get my windows cleaned. Pretty simple, but I went through the same path that all of us do, which is I was looking online, so reading reviews on Google, looking at Yelp, texting friends, calling friends. Getting on Facebook and messaging people, stopping neighbors as they drove by, just asking them, hey, who cleans your windows and who do you have as landscaper? And you get every answer all across the board. Sometimes it's my cousin's brother's friend. I think he's the one that did it last time. Let me get back to you. And it's just very convoluted. And so I was really frustrated with that process and thought there had to be a better way. And so in then researching and thinking there had to be a better way, I found, Angie's List, which we've heard of before. It's known as Angie now, Thumbtack, and TaskRabbit. Okay. And all of those apps, they do a good job at what they're intended to do. But what my observation is they seem to be more of a B2B play. So they seem to be more focused on the businesses paying to be on a site and to get referrals and to pay for referral fees. The thing I didn't like was that from a customer interaction, it wasn't very streamlined. You take Angie, for example, it's got kind of a click funnel approach where you start off with what are you generally looking for? And then it gets you all the way down to, okay, great, enter your name, information, and all of that. And then once you do that, then it gives you a bunch of people that you can call to get quotes from. Thumbtack is similar with some published pricing. Same thing with TaskRabbit. So that just frustrated me. It took way too long in my mind for what I wasn't looking for a contractor. I was just looking for some home services. Yeah. So at this time, again, about 4 years ago, I was on a business trip in California. I can't remember exactly where, and I was at the airport, and I had booked an Uber to get to the hotel. And because this idea was very fresh in my mind, just that light bulb went off in my head, and I went, oh, this is how this needs to function. There needs to be a company. And in my mind at this point, I think, I'm sure this exists. I got to go find this. Uh-huh. But where the company vets the vendors, has published pricing, and all you do is in a few seconds, just like when you book an Uber, book someone to come clean your windows, book someone to come clean your kitchen, book someone to pressure wash your house, or whatever the home service is like that. Bring, water softener, salt. And so I made a note in my notes app, hey, look this up. This is kind of what I was looking for. And when I got home, I started searching. I still couldn't find anything. And I was
Yeah.
blown away that it didn't exist. And I'm sure you've had these kinds of experiences before with technology. Something that seemed so obvious to me, I was blown away that it didn't exist. Again, it kind of existed, and I think a lot of people would say it does exist in the form of the other companies I already mentioned. But to me and how I wanted it to function with convenience and speed and trust as the primary things, it didn't exist. But I was too busy with my current company. So I kind of spent a little time. I bought some properties, some internet properties, some domains, and kind of mulled on the idea a little bit, but didn't have time to really flesh it out. About 3 years ago, we moved to Utah here.
Okay. Where from?
Arizona. I lived in Queen Creek, and that's where my offices were. We're in Queen Creek, so Gilbert Mesa area, right near the airport, the Mesa Gateway airport there. So we moved from there about 3 years ago, and about 2 years ago, I sold my last company. So when I sold the company, I had kind of that, and I know you've been through this process before. I was like, well, what am I going to do next?
Okay.
And so I started kind of thinking on that, and I remembered this problem that I'd had and this idea I'd been thinking on.
All right. Yeah, we'll go back and ask about these previous companies and stuff like that. But yeah, keep going there.
Perfect. So about 2 years ago, almost to the day, at least the month, I started in earnest with Tdooz, and I started kind of looking at what do I want this to look like. I spent some time paying to have a web application developed, just kind of a MVP concept. And so over that next year, I worked on developing that MVP concept. Just myself. I mean, I'm not a software engineer, so I had to employ other people that I was paying to do that, but I worked very closely with them in making sure it was exactly what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Initially, my thought with Tdooz had been that it was going to be a monthly subscription model, because that was kind of in my mind what I wanted. I wanted to pay one price and just know that things were handled.
Yeah.
But when I went all the way down through the road of developing it that way, and then when I launched it, I realized that customers had a real hard time. I was surprised by this, but a real hard time understanding what they were getting for the money. And there was always kind of this friction point of, well, I get all these things, but I don't want that.
Okay.
And I was like, well, okay, but you're still getting a good deal. But it became a conversation, and that was the antithesis of what I was trying to create. I was trying to avoid customer service problems, customer service, not interactions, but friction points where I didn't want that. I wanted it to be as simple as possible for them. So then I pivoted. I said, okay, I'm not going to do that approach. I'm going to make the app completely free, the technology completely free, and I'm going to pivot to what we have it structured as now, which is it's free for customers to use, it's free for vendors to be on, and we do an 80-20 split with the vendors. So we effectively now with the model with Tdooz cover the CAC, the customer acquisition costs for vendors.
Okay.
So it's a really great deal. We probably don't have the time to dive into the economy on that and the math on that, but it's a great deal for vendors. It's a great deal for customers because we become almost a marketplace SaaS model for what we're trying to create. But we basically we give jobs to vendors. So here's how the process.
Right. So you go to the vendor and you say to them, like, if you use our Tdooz platform, and we'll give you customers.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
In exchange for the 20%, which is what they're already spending on acquisition costs anyway. Right?
Way more than that in most
yeah.
cases. Yeah. I mean, when you consider all the marketing spend, everything from print to mobile to SEO, SEM spends.
Yeah.
To in the service industry, they spend a lot on door knocking and direct marketing that's even way more expensive than that. So depending on your industry within home services, all of them, by my research, I could be wrong, but what I have found so far by my research, everything is far more than 20% to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
So it's a great deal for them. It's market rate for the customers. We don't upcharge on the app. The price is the price. So if you were to get your windows cleaned through a vendor that happens to be on Tdooz outside of the platform, it's the same price. We're just covering that marketing costs, and that's where we live.
Really cool. Yeah, that makes it like super easy. And by the way, anybody who hasn't used Tdooz or wants to know more about it, like when he says it takes a few seconds to like schedule a service to come to your house and clean your windows, for example, like it's a few seconds.
It is.
It is like literally a few seconds. So all the phone calls that you've been making to landscapers, and and not only this, but some services, you end up calling people that might not even be able to 100% understand the needs that you have.
Yes.
And so you're spending all your time communicating exactly what it is that you need. Like this service is just like tap, schedule, pay. It shows up and it gets done.
Yeah, and we have a very clear North Star with Tdooz when it comes to the services that can be on the platform. If there is variability to it that we can't cover within the technology, and what I mean by that is like we don't have contractor services like, let's say, drywall repair.
Okay.
And it's intentional that way. There are other sources for that. But the reason is there's no great way that we found yet to quantify how someone would book that service without the potential complication of a vendor showing up and going, oh, well, yeah, you said that, but actually it's this.
Okay.
Or, hey, I yes, I can fix the hole in the drywall, but I can't match the texture of the paint on the wall. I don't want those pain points for customers. So the only services that are going to be on there are ones that can be very clearly defined in a very clear way. And we make it very, very clear. I said clear like 5 times there. We make it very clear to vendors and to customers that's like a hard line for us in this platform. We don't try to overreach with what we can achieve within the platform, because I don't ever want to affect that convenience and that speed that a customer can experience in booking a service.
Absolutely. Yeah. It seems like, well, what's really cool, what I'm hearing is basically it's like for the services that absolutely require like a quote for somebody to come out and basically do an estimate.
Yes.
Right. You're not necessarily focused on that, but it's things that should definitely be fixed costs with Tdooz, right?
Yes. And we'll have solutions to that, by the way.
Yeah.
What's important, because you may have your viewers may be asking the question to the screen right now. Well, but what if I want to? Yeah, and in the future, we absolutely have the plan of having we're kind of internally calling it right now a Tdooz Platinum service. But the way that would work is you would have a dedicated concierge that you could call and say, hey, I have a hole in my drywall I need repaired. And your dedicated concierge, maybe her name's Wendy, right? You call on, it's like, hey, Wendy, I have got this hole in my drywall. I got a little frustrated at that basketball game and may or may not have done a little redecorating.
Right.
Wendy can say, no problem. We've got 3 great drywall contractors in your area. When are you going to be around? And she can set that up for you to where she can come or that person can come and give you a quote. So we intend in the future to have those mechanics built in as well with the Tdooz experience. But that is going to be after people have utilized the app and realized how many things can be convenient for them in their own life, that they just really don't need. They don't really need to spend time reading reviews, getting quotes. The pricing is the pricing. Like window washing. For most markets, window washing, those that do windows, it's the same price. Like all these companies charge relatively the same price.
Right. And
they all relatively consider a window the same thing. A window is not necessarily just a sheet of glass. It's typically a pane of glass or a size of glass. So you can really hone that down.
Right.
And it's the same thing with pressure washing or with water softener salt bags or air filter replacement or whatever it is. These are things that can be very easily quantifiable. And there's a large subset of the population that just doesn't care who shows up. They just want the thing done.
Yeah. Tdooz is right for all the people out there that call somebody to solve a problem and think to themselves, man, I probably could have got a better deal if I had just told them, or if they just gave me a fixed price, which it should be a fixed price.
Yeah.
For example, kitchen cleaning.
Yeah.
Right. Window washing, like the number of windows, how many stories, right? Like the soft water softener.
Yeah. How many bags?
How many bags?
Pelleter or crystals?
Yeah. How many TVs being mounted? Maybe that's an idea.
Yeah.
But like, I think, get as creative as you want. The service is Tdooz is going to grow.
Yeah.
We're obviously in startup phases, and but it works.
Yeah.
So I think anybody who hears this should download Tdooz and give it a try, because I think this is definitely one of the types of services that once you use it, you're hooked. You just need to use it. Try it.
It's so funny. And then I know we'll move on to a different topic, but it's the thing that's most hilarious to me when I have these conversations with people, and I typically will lead out with saying it's like Uber for home services, right? Like we talked about. And people are quasi listening. We all do this, right? I'm explaining it to someone and they're kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. Well, but how does the vendor know? Or they'll ask, and I'll say, well, okay, this is how it works. We pre-vet the vendors. Everything is already arranged on that side. What happens when you book a service after 30 seconds is all of the vendors get a text and an email. Yeah. And the first vendor to accept the job that has already been vetted, that it already has a preset price that was published in the app, is paired to perform the job. And they go, oh, so it's like Uber.
You're just like, exactly.
Yes. No. But that's the point, right? Is I want, and I use, this is a little bit tongue in cheek, and I've told this ridiculous example before, but if you're at the airport booking an Uber and you're trying to just get to your hotel and you do Uber X and it's $30 and you see the price there, you book it. 3 minutes later in the app, you see some guy named Steve is showing up in a Toyota Corolla and he has 3.9 stars and he's going to come take you to the hotel. Well, do you cancel that because it's a Corolla and you don't like Toyota, or because it was only 3.9 stars? Most people kind of smirk and look at me and go, well, no. And I say, exactly. Because with Uber, your bar is to get you from A to B without murdering you.
Right.
That's literally it, right? Yeah. And I think so many home services fall into that same category. So many home services are just come do this one thing that I asked you to do for the price that was published. That's right. All I need done. So anyway.
Very cool. Very cool. I really like that. So if you don't mind, well, let's talk about these businesses.
Yeah.
So you're an entrepreneur. I would love to know how long you've been preneuing and
or menooing.
Yeah. and like some of the things that you've learned. I would like to get down to like the golden nuggets of your learnings.
Yeah.
Over your past experiences and like both from successes and failures. If you could like think about go over some of those. I mean, as deep as you would like to go.
Yeah.
I know that, we all like, you're going to have deep experiences that I'm sure come to mind.
Yeah.
That maybe you don't want to share, and that's okay. But
yeah, no,
I would love to see what I can get out of you as far as, what kind of businesses you ran in the past.
Yeah.
Started, bought, the whole shebang.
Yeah. There's a number of them. This could go for hours if I talk through everything that I've done. We're not going to start with it was a dark, stormy night, and I was, back when I was 1 year old. But
what I would like to know is what the businesses were, like the problems that they solved, and then basically the golden nugget that you got out of the experience.
Yeah. So probably the first company of any success that I started was all based around eBay. So it was just me. I actually had a friend who, this wasn't my idea. I had a good friend of mine who's still a good friend of mine today, who's had a lot of success himself in Silicon Valley, working for different companies. Like me, he went to law school as well. But when we were in college, he had this idea of buying secondhand shoes. So I was in Phoenix. I went to Arizona State for undergraduate. And there was this place called Last Chance, and Last Chance, you could go and buy shoes that had been returned to Nordstrom.
Okay.
And so really it was anything. It wasn't just shoes. It was clothes, all kind of apparel. Anything that was sold in Nordstrom, if it was returned, this is where it went, because they couldn't sell it as new. So you have the Nordstrom rack, but those aren't used items. Those are just things that they discontinued or whatever. This was all things that were maybe worn one time.
Okay.
Or worn for a year. Nordstrom took anything back. So there was some stuff that was pretty haggard. But I primarily, and my friend, he had primarily done men's dress shoes. So he kind of showed me what he was doing, and he was like, there's plenty of room for everyone else, anyone. And so I also was doing the same. So once a week, I'd go to Nordstrom, or I'd go to Last Chance, and I would scour just men's dress shoes, primarily Allen Edmonds, Ferragamo, Mephisto, Yeah, there were a few other brands that I would occasionally do if they were really nice condition, but those are the primary ones that I would work with, and find the sizes that I felt were most sellable and the best condition, and I would bring them back and I would sell them on eBay. And I was a power seller on eBay, so I haven't been on eBay in a long time, so I don't even know if the power seller program still exists or quite frankly anything about what eBay for the last 10 years even looks like. But this is 20 something years ago. So power seller just meant you were a trusted seller. You sold a lot of goods. You had really high rated reviews. And so I would take these shoes that I would buy for $19.95 and I would polish them up. I mean, not actually polish them up, but clean them up, take pictures of them, do a very quick Photoshop edit on the background, throw them up on an auction and sell them for anywhere from $100 to $200.
That's incredible.
And,
Wow.
And I would get every week somewhere between 15 to 20 pairs of shoes. So, as a college student at that point, I had this little business that was making me, I mean, depending on some weeks, $2,000, some weeks, that's $1,000
for a college
or $1,500.
That's great.
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah. And to the point where I really started to see some ability with this to grow. And the hardest thing was, it was like the rope drop at Disneyland. You'd show up and they'd have those gates because it was in a mall, and the gates would open and everyone would just run in and go to their section. There were some women that were doing like jeans and some that were doing purses, some other guys that were doing different clothes, but everyone had their stick and they would run to that area, see what was new, buy it and get out. And, But I somehow had gotten the phone number of, I could be remember. This has been a lot of years now, but I remember him being the vice president or a vice president of marketing with Nordstrom. Somehow I'd gotten up the feud chain to get this guy's number because I wanted to talk to him about why he didn't have an online presence selling these items online. They could have made way more money if we had first ability to pick this. Like we could. In my mind, and again, my very ignorant, young mind, I'm thinking, gosh, someone just needs to run this for him and have an online marketing. Why are they not doing this? I got his number and I spent probably 20 minutes on the phone with him, and I'll never forget this conversation.
Wow.
He was not happy. I don't know if what I was doing was causing issues with his brands. Maybe they had some side deal where they couldn't sell those items used or something. But he didn't like that we were selling goods out of the store online. And so much so that I actually got banned from buying from Last Chance. They had put like a restriction in place for me to purchase there at Last Chance because I guess it had then worked its way back down to the store that I was buying these shoes and selling them secondhand. Wow. So that was a really interesting experience. So that's a long story to get to the point of that was my first time. It was an internet company, right? Selling on eBay. The internet was very, very new. This is 2000.
So this guy, what was the guy's name?
I don't remember.
Because I have questions around this conversation.
Yeah.
So this was the owner of. This
was one of the vice presidents of marketing, or the vice president of marketing for Nordstrom.
That's wild. So, here's the eye opener for me. The eye opener for me is like, it doesn't take a ton to get the attention of important.
Oh yeah.
People that you would assume are like for example, famous people, like you see them in a coffee shop and you're like, there's no way I can go and like talk to this person, because they're like so above me or whatever.
Sure.
Like whatever the complex is that you're kind of struggling with is or like comparisons or whatever.
They're just a person.
But they're just they're just a person. That's the eye opener for me, is just like, and I find that to be really cool that you made that happen. You made that happen.
Yeah. I don't know how, even looking back, like I don't remember the series of events that led to me getting his phone number, but I've had lots of experiences just like that. Like you're saying, you just be real with people. They're just people. It's funny. This is very unrelated, but very related. I think about this a lot when I'm driving down the freeway, How many times have you been behind a semi truck that's just like swerving all over the road or speeding, or like they're in the slow lane and they decide that now they're going to get in the fast lane so they can go 1 mile an hour faster than the semi truck next to them. And your immediate thought is, what is a semi truck doing? Like, why? They're a semi truck. And you're attributing what you think a semi truck should do without remembering that the driver of that semi truck is just a dude like you and everyone else.
Yeah.
And so we so often attribute value to the status in that kind of weird example of the semi truck,
Right.
without realizing it's still a guy or a girl. It's still a person in that seat, whether they're an executive or they're a super successful entrepreneur or they're a complete and total failure. It's just a person still at the end of the day that has hopes and dreams and feelings. And we talked about this, before we kind of started, that the most important tool to anything is people.
Right.
And when you lose sight of that reality, when you lose sight that the person behind the wheel of a semi truck or the vice president of a major retail organization is still just a person, man, you lose sight on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
That's where you have to always remember that people, by and large, are always willing to have a conversation, to learn, to grow, to be better, and you should engage on that level.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's super cool. I got to bring in this an experience that I had in Las Vegas. In church, there was this guy. I went to church close to the Strip. So if there was any like visitors in town that wanted to like go,
did you have Elvis as a preacher?
Sometimes.
Only in Vegas.
Believe it or not. Yeah, sometimes there'd be a character or two that would walk in.
Yeah, that's too funny.
But like the cool thing was that there was a mix of everybody.
Yeah.
Because close to the Las Vegas Strip, you have pretty much the very highs and the very lows all in the same group.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I'd get to have awesome, wonderful conversations with like the CEOs of very, very successful like construction companies there. And also there would be like 4 or 5 homeless people waiting outside the door to come into church sometimes.
Yeah.
And people without cars, people without money, people without homes, like, but what a great mix.
Yeah.
Totally. Like, what a great mix. That experience and like going to church close to the Strip in Vegas. Like what an eye opener just to life in general. Cause you can really get into a room with people and center on one thing.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And then like, be able to learn something. But I guess what I'm trying to get to here is, the experiences like that, kind of are like a 20-minute conversation, like you said, with the vice president can teach you and set you down a path.
Totally.
And like totally change your life.
You know what it did? And I really had not thought about this a lot. By the way, I went to law school in Las Vegas, so I had that same experience.
Okay.
We can go a million ways in this conversation. But in hindsight and thinking about that, you know what it taught me that I don't know that I had hardwired into me yet was, and maybe this is the entrepreneurial spirit, but it's when I had an interaction with an executive and I didn't get the answer that I wanted. I could have gone 2 ways in that. I could have gone, oh, I better just get in line and do what I'm supposed to do. But instead, what my reaction was, not in a rude way, but it was like, well, yeah, okay, but I disagree.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do this anyway, or I'm going to do this thing. Now that window kind of closed. I did that right up to law school. So I was going to law school anyway. So I kind of closed that down. I transferred over to a friend of mine who started kind of carrying on what I was doing anyway. Yeah. So that was not like a big scale operation, right? But it was one of my first tastes of someone with authority telling me no and me saying, okay, I respect what you're saying within the purview of what you have control over, but yeah, I just don't agree. Like, I think there's something here and I'm going to go another direction with it. I actually went into right after that creating an internet company that calendared parties in college towns, so that people could. It was called Before 12, and it was so that individuals who were going to throw small house parties or larger kind of events in actually here in Utah, where they could go on and advertise that they had a party so that they could get people to come to those parties. And it allowed us to create enough of a user base to where we actually rented out what was called the David O. McKay Center, the UVSC. Well, it was UVSC at the time. It's UVU, right? No, that's what it's called?
Yeah, UVU.
So their entire basketball arena, we rented out for a party once and
Wow.
had thousands of people come. So that was a fun little,
That's awesome.
thing as well that I did. But you just start to get that kind of attitude, and it kind of leads all the way to what we started with Tdooz, which is this attitude that if something doesn't exist, that doesn't mean it doesn't have to, that doesn't mean it can't exist. You can make it exist.
Yeah.
And that first interaction with that executive with Nordstrom kind of taught me that. I could have gone the direction of, oh, okay, I guess I can't do this anymore. But instead I pivoted and said, well, maybe I can't do that thing, but what problems do I want to solve next? Because I can create something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's like I think that's like a hump or like a glass ceiling, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That I feel like everybody kind of has to break through before they can make something happen, is just realize that like really like the world is your oyster. So like either just like take it and run with it, and then, and learn from these people, learn from these experiences along the way.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the glass ceiling, I would say, that you kind of need to break through in order to feel the freedom, like feel the freedom and like really realize that like changing the world in a cool way or disrupting an entire industry like can be done.
Yeah.
And it figure out how small you can start to make it happen.
Yep.
And grow.
Yep.
Start from there.
And find people that share your vision. I mean, I've come back to that a few times, but that's why people are so important. Be willing to do the work yourself, but be willing to be generous and involve others that see that vision, that believe in that same vision, that want to also solve that problem and partner and create with them to go make that thing happen.
Yeah, and that's what I'm learning that as a business owner, that kind of with that experience where like a business leader says no, like no, it's not a good idea or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to be the kind of business owner that says, okay, like I'll tell you straight up front, I don't necessarily think it's the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm willing to let's do it your way, and let's both find out together if this improves the business in some way.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Totally.
I don't find any harm with that. I think that's considered investment in my people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
I'm willing, I should be willing as a business owner to because ultimately, whether that is successful or fails, it's a success because now this person is going to be willing to come up with ideas and not stop like their progression in my organization.
Yes.
Right.
And it's interesting because not all team members, I was going to say employees, but I think it's more apropos to say team members. I try to be straight with people when I say, listen, I have opinions. Some of them are strong opinions, but I want you to push back on those opinions. But the thing I have a hard time with, and it even could go so far as don't respect, is when someone will push back on an idea that I have without having done any of the homework to be at the same place mentally or with ideas that I am at. I'm always willing to spar with somebody that has done the homework. Yeah. But when someone hasn't and all they want to do is tear down your idea or tell you that it isn't going to work, that is what gets really, really difficult, especially as a business owner when it's on you. As an entrepreneur, you're the one that loses the most.
Right.
With Tdooz, if Tdooz goes down in glorious flame, I'm the one that bears by far the hugest financial and other risk.
Yeah.
But I'm still willing to have a conversation with somebody on the team that says, hey, so I've been thinking about it and here's why. I know you really want to do this, but let's table that for a second. Here's why I think we should do this instead. Yeah. And if I can see that their ideas, just like you're saying, are well thought out and that they have done their homework on this thing, even if I still don't see it, I'm willing to go, okay, well, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. But when someone comes to me and is just like, hey, I want to do this thing. And it's like, okay, so we tried that 4 years ago and this is why it didn't work. Why is it going to work this time? Oh, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I just really think we should do it. Okay.
Right.
And it's a lot harder as an entrepreneur or as a business owner to give that person the time of day.
Right. Yeah, and at the very least, or at the very most, you kind of have to be like, well, go do your homework and then come back to me again with this idea.
Yeah.
And explain, because maybe it's different than what we did 4 years ago, and you're just kind of explaining it the wrong way because you haven't done your homework, right?
You have to be confidently humble.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you have to be confidently humble. You have to be confident in what you're doing at all times. You have to be willing to burn it all down. Well, not intentionally, but have it all burned down. But you also have to be willing to go, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Every day, I start my day going, man, there are so many things I don't know how to do this. But I'm also not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of not knowing. I'm okay with that level of ambiguity in my day to day, and I try to be humble enough to be open to others when I don't know and have them help solve problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've noticed that in my experience, because I'm probably 4 years into like doing software startups, and the hardness, like the difficulty humbles me like alone. But yeah, like I find it to be a very awesome, cool experience because I know that I'm growing if I really like understand that I'm not the best. Not that I like, there's difference between like me telling myself in the mirror, like I'm the best, I can do this, you can do this, I'm the best. But understanding that like, you got to learn from the people around you and like, you're not the best engineer. You're not the smartest person in the world. Because if you are, then who can you learn from? Right? You can't.
And that's not your play.
Right.
You know, there's lots of books and podcasts and talks and lectures on this topic, but the role of a founder, the role of a visionary, the role of an entrepreneur is a very different one from those tacticians, those individuals who make things happen.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, founders have to have a certain level of experience for sure. Yeah. They need to have a technical knowledge enough to be able to have a conversation with those who are implementing those things. But your skill set lies not in the detail, but in the everything. It's kind of the superpower of ADHD, right? It's that ability to see all of the squirrels all at once who are all over, and you're like, well, that one's got a cool nut. Ooh, I like the bushy tail on that one. Hey, can someone get on that one over there with this nut? I don't know if that's you know, like it's that ability to see that. If all you're doing is chasing the one all the time, you can't create.
Yeah, and like because I've started out as a software engineer. In my career, and it was very quick. Like on my first team, I realized that I don't think the same way these other people do.
Sure.
I just don't think the same way. Everybody in software development is like everybody that I've worked with, very smart, very talented, but like limited in just that way, where they're focused on this like one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I'm thinking about like my first big contract was with T-Mobile, and from day one I'm thinking, okay, what's the goal? Like, what's the business vision for this payments thing? You know, like what are we trying to solve 10 years down the road? And I'm asking these questions, and they're like, we don't know, because it's an engineering team, you know, and they're just kind of the whole point of the engineering team is you tell them what to do, and then they'll go do that, right? But I'm just like full of questions all the time that don't necessarily have to do with engineering, but in my mind are super important for engineering, because if I don't know where we're going, then how can I make this product scale? I don't know. Like
with Tdooz, I have the next 10 years mapped out.
Yeah.
And if some mythical sugar daddy was to come drop 100 people and $100 million on me right now today, I would know what I would do with every drop of that.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly, and I don't know that it's right. Let's be clear. I don't know if any one of these things actually would work, but I know what in my mind every one of these things would do. I know all the avenues I want to hit. I know what I see at scale that the ability of this company Tdooz that I'm building could do. Like I see that in my mind. I'm only limited by time, resources, which includes people as well. Like that is my only limitation. And also I would add to that, and I'm very, very clear. I tell my team this all the time. I'm like, I'm not trying to be a hype machine. Like I know what I believe, but I don't want you to be sold based on what I'm saying. I want you to see it. I want you to help engage in that vision.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself.
Yeah.
And I with Tdooz, I've been it's a little different of a tech startup than some because I've self-funded this thing for the last 2 years. I have put only my money and a lot of it into this company, into this build, because I wanted to get the product to a place where it wasn't, I have this idea, I'm not sure where to go in a year, but I think it could be a good idea. Anyone want to invest in me? I wanted to develop something where I could say, hey, I took this idea, I built this thing. This is all me. I'm the only one on the line with this right now. But now to get to here, I need you. Will you jump on board?
Right.
I mean, I've had probably 24 conversations with venture capital firms over the last year. In fact, I haven't had any in the last 6 months, but for that year prior. And all of those conversations, they would end with, well, great, what's your ask, Matthew? And I said, well, I don't have an ask right now.
Yeah.
And they'd look at me like, what do you mean? And my comment was, I will have an ask, but I want you to know what I'm working on. And I don't feel confident or comfortable asking you for money for my idea until I've fleshed out my idea at my own risk. And then I will come back to you with when I vetted it, which I'm basically there today. If not today, in a week or so, I will be there, where I can say, okay, this is what I was talking about. This is what I've created. This is what I see the vision for. This is what I need from a capital expenditure standpoint. Are you on board?
Yeah.
But I want that. It's a little unconventional, but that's how I felt right about doing it. I wanted to make sure that I'd proven it to myself before I asked someone else to buy in on me.
Yeah. Have any of these conversations with VC firms or anything, have they led to feedback from these people?
Uh-huh.
Like, do they get what kinds of things have they if you don't mind sharing?
No, not at all. Yeah. What's really interesting, actually, and this kind of goes to the unintentional, this is the fun part about podcasts, right? They just go in ways and they bring up things in your mind you would have never thought of. Like the conversation with that vice president with Nordstrom, and how he talked about how just because someone is in authority doesn't mean they have authority over your thing.
Yeah.
It's been interesting in some of these conversations, they've had recommendations, and I know where they're coming from, but one of them has been, for example, well, what if I want to pick my vendor? And my comment to them was, that's not this platform.
Okay. Yeah,
and they say, well, but I really think you should do that. And my comment back is, I understand that. If you want that, that exists today. It's called Angie. It's called Thumbtack. It's called TaskRabbit. It's called Yelp.
Right.
It's called Google.
Right.
Like, if you want that, it exists today. Well, yeah, but you should do it on this platform. And I said, that's not what this is.
Right.
And I said, and I'm confident that there is a market that doesn't want that, because that takes time. That is the antithesis of what I'm trying to build. So I got that feedback from a couple. Another feedback that I got from a couple of them was that they wanted to be able to read reviews. They said, well, how do I know who's coming, like who they are and how good they are? And I said, well, that's our job. We vet them. Well, but I want to be able to see who's coming or I want to be able to read a review about them. And I said, do you? I mean, do you really? And this is kind of about the conversation about the tone. I said, again, that's not what the platform is for. We are doing that. We actually do review a customer in the next version of the app that we launch. It probably will be a few weeks before this functionality exists, but you'll be able to rate the vendor that came to your house.
Okay.
But that's all customer facing. That is to help us with feedback with the vendor. That's not meant to convolute the process of the customer using the service. So when you go to book a service, it's not going to show you the star rating of the person coming to your house. Now, is that incorrect that I have that opinion? I don't know. Time will tell, right? But that's been feedback I've gotten from VCs, a couple, not very many, that they say I need to have a star rating system that they can see who they're getting. And some of them went so far to say so that I can pick which star rating of vendor comes to my house. And I just said, that's not what this app is.
It's a 5-star every time. That's what you want, right?
Yeah.
So, because Tdooz, it seems like Tdooz is the trustworthy platform that you can go to. Schedule your stuff. You can trust that they have vetted out the vendors. And that's what the ratings are for. You give a bad rating, then Tdooz takes that seriously.
Yes.
If there's 10 bad ratings, probably the vendor's
Exactly.
out, right? The vendor's gone and you're replaced with a 5-star vendor.
Yep.
Idea. So that would be the
We
concept.
handle
And
it
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, we handle it if crap hits the fan. But the point is, you want to get in and out as quickly as possible to that transaction. You want to be able to sitting in bed at night, watching something on Netflix going, oh, shoot, we have family coming to town next week. Our house is a disaster.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, what do you want to do? Well, let's get the kitchen and the guest room clean and let's get our windows clean. Okay, awesome. And
done 5 seconds.
And if we, if I was to turn to the camera straight down the barrel and show the app and like show it, like it's, I mean, you're smiling now, you've done it, but it's people don't. It's hilarious. It brings me some satisfaction actually because people assume I'm selling them or I'm spinning a story. It's really that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legitimately. We have removed all of the barriers of complication to make it that fast to book something.
Yeah. I saw a video that you made. I think it's on the website where you were like, you put a timer, 45 seconds, 35 seconds left on the timer. You've already booked the service. Now you're talking about the service.
Yeah.
Like it is that fast.
Yeah.
And quite literally, it's the purpose there is Tdooz is the trusted platform. You can just know that things are happening on the back end.
Yes.
Right. This is like the trustworthy uncle that you call on every single time to fix your car. Yeah. Right. That he'll send a friend over, but you know that that's a trustworthy friend because this is the guy that this is the guy you trust, and this is the service that you're going to trust for your in-home services. Yeah,
I describe it to people. This is maybe a stupid example, but it works for my brain. You know those diet Oreos, the thin Oreos? They've got the really thin. All they've done is made the cookie thinner.
Yeah.
So they've got the thin top and the thin bottom. I joke with people that Tdooz is a quadruple stuff diet Oreo. So it's got the really super thin cookie top and the super thin cookie bottom, and it's got like that much of that white stuff, whatever it is, in the middle. We are the white stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
But you as the customer, you should still have that thin cookie top experience. No matter what, it should be that fast for you. And same for a vendor, because as soon as a customer books and a vendor gets a text and an email, or all the vendors do in that category, I want them to go accept.
Yeah.
And now they are paired. And then we in the middle have to handle all that gooey stuff in the middle to make sure that everything works right, that all the communication happens, that the vendor shows up when they're supposed to show up, like all of that. But I don't ever, the litmus test for me is we never should be dumping things back on the customer or back on the vendor. We should never have things so convoluted that we have to go to the vendor and arrange something in an analog way or handle something custom for a customer because the software didn't just solve it. Right. If we can't have that thin cookie top and that thin cookie bottom with all the gooey middle being us, then either the service isn't on the platform or we're not doing our job.
Right. I really like that. I mean, and there's companies out there that for certain things accomplish this. For example, like Apple. Apple's very good at understanding how much we really don't care about to handle, right?
Yes, the whole company's built on it.
Yeah, the whole exactly, right? There's us as people, as humans, as individuals. We're all different in ways, but as a whole, there's very little that we can say is very unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If that makes sense. We're predictable. I guess you could say it that way.
Yeah.
We're predictable and easily understood.
Yeah.
At a large scale. So we can really, think about it that way. With Tdooz, it's just we want the darn kitchen to be cleaned. We can trust that Tdooz is going to send the right person over.
Yeah.
Click. Done. Just be done with it. And that's something I haven't heard. There's nothing out there like that. I myself, after understanding what Tdooz is and how it works, I have gone and tried to find something that is even remotely the same, but it's the same stuff that I've come across. Yeah. It's just Thumbtack and these other, just you do, basically the service is you do all the work still, but here's some people that you can go, try to vet out, but you're going to do a horrible job because you don't even understand what they're doing. And and they know this, but they're just trying, that's the easy way. You're taking it head on and saying this can be solved.
And they collect so much information from you. I mean, one of the things that was really important for me with the app is if you were today to go download the app, the only question we ask of you to see what services are available, price points, and what scheduling is available is your zip code, not your name, not anything. Because I hate as a consumer when I have to go through all of this stuff. I'm like, what are you doing with all this data? What else is your ulterior motive? I just want to see what it's going to cost to have someone come bring salt to my house on next Thursday.
Right.
And then at that point where I see all of that, and then you go, okay, yeah, let's do this. Then obviously we need to know where we're coming. You need to pay for it.
Yeah.
And we need to know your contact information so we can make that thing happen. But it's not until then do we even gather that information. And then the other really important thing for me with Tdooz was there is no contracts. Everything, there are scheduled services and there are one-time services. But everything, if you're not happy, if we're not doing our job, if this is not the most convenient, fastest way you have ever scheduled home services with a company that you can trust and know that we are going to stand by it, then we're not doing our job. I don't want to bind you to a 2-year agreement on something.
Yeah.
So anything scheduled is purely scheduled for your convenience. So like, pest control, for example. If you schedule pest control to happen every 2 months, well, yeah, your card is going to be charged in accordance with that service. But if at any point during that, if 4 months down the road, you're like, we don't really need pest control. I'm actually really like cockroaches. They're fun. Spiders are my friend.
Yeah.
And you want to cancel it, then cancel it.
Yeah.
Because then we didn't do our job or we weren't a right fit for you. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to make sure that in every service to have a one-time as well, because I know I hate when I feel like I have to get locked into something. It's like, I just want to try it. I'll even pay more, but I want to just try this thing out to see if I like it. And if I do, and I realize, wow, these guys really are doing what they say they're going to do, then my belief is that more and more people will go, okay, I want to just set it and forget it then.
Yeah. I take that same approach with the Savesy app. Really, because in my personal opinion, the best coupon you can use is one that you can easily just show it and forget it.
Yeah.
Like show it, tap, and be done. No scanning involved, no downloading involved, no storing. Like you don't have to with physical coupons, you don't have to store it in your that one drawer that has everything in it.
My wife loves it. I showed it to her this morning. Actually, showed Savesy's to her this morning, and we were talking in relation to a local competitor, let's say. And she's like, gosh, it was so much more of a pain. She said it's so much more complicated in some of these ways to get these deals to actually happen.
Yeah.
With a lot of those coupon books and those local things that exist.
Yeah.
She said, I love what the approach of Savesy's is because it's just so much easier. Like she said, the interface is just so much easier.
Right. Yeah. And that's sort of the vibe I want to bring is just like, yeah, the coupons have been around for a long time, but and there's companies like Groupon and things like that, but their business model is such that it really just eats away at the business itself, the profit that the business can make. And so and my background in engineering, I've done a lot of social media software development. And so I understand a lot about how these interesting algorithms work to gain attention and ultimately collect data on an individual. Because with social media, we don't pay as users, but businesses pay to have, for example, Instagram. Instagram's job is not to provide us with news or interesting, fun content to watch as a family on the couch. No, the job of Instagram is to simply serve us as customers to their employers, which are the paying businesses, right? And so the concept that I have with the Savesy app is to reverse the tables a little bit.
Yeah.
Users can pay a subscription to have access to all of the deals, all the promotions that they can dream of in their local area for outdoor things, entertainment, food. And businesses can post that stuff for free, but you best bet that we're gonna use this data to. It does that's the cool thing is it makes the business money. It's free advertising, and when they come and spend money at your business, the business makes money. But the whole point is we're trying to serve the best business fit to the person at the right time.
Yes,
that makes sense. So
totally.
when somebody gets in the car and opens the app, I want them to see the business that they want to go. They want to go do this mini golf thing or something with their family. and make sure that they're getting that experience at a deal too, like at a discount.
Yeah, totally.
And that's sort of the idea there. But yeah, taking something that sort of exists and turning it into what you believe it should be and what the experience should be like. Fast, easy, simple, cheap.
I know. Totally agree.
Right. All right. Well, I got a question for you here before we wrap up.
Yeah.
If you were to give any advice to yourself when you were getting started now,
Run. I'm sorry. Continue. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
On the flip side. So if you know that your beginning self is just not going to run,
Yeah.
what advice would you give yourself knowing that you're going to endure the things that you have endured?
Gosh. Oh, so it would be really easy for me to answer with mistakes I've made and, well, hey, don't do that mistake. But I think the advice I would give to myself. So I graduated from law school. I'd already run a couple of internet-based companies, and they're me and two other people kind of thing. It's really, really small. But I'd run 2 or 3, depending on how you count, by the time I finished law school, of companies. And so I graduated law school when I was 25.
Okay.
I think. Don't check me, but I think I was 25. And so at 25, I spent a couple of years working for the federal court. I had a great opportunity to clerk for a federal judge for the Ninth Circuit. Kind of a dream job for a law student. You're basically in-house counsel. That's what a law clerk is. You write opinions. You listen to oral arguments and draft opinions on behalf of the judge. And then he obviously edits and modifies that opinion because it's him.
Wow.
Super. I mean, really,
that's powerful.
Really, really cool. Like huge name, huge cases that people would know about that I was very intimately involved in or wrote the opinion for. I say wrote, that gives me way more credit than I deserve, but I did the first pass.
Yeah.
Right. So really a cool opportunity. So I probably was 27-ish when I left that. My plan was always to go back into business. So at 27, so I'm thinking about I'm at 46 now. So giving advice to myself from 20 years ago. What would my advice be? I think it would be hold on and realize that everything works out. That you can't underplay the value of the good and the bad experiences that you're going to have. Allow the tapestry of life to fold out. I'm religious. I go to church. I believe in a higher power. And so my framework of looking at life comes from and through that lens. But I look at all the experiences that I have had, and everything happens for a reason. I meet people like you. I meet people for a reason. I am always amazed as I look back at the tapestry, and it really is that of all the individuals I've interacted with, all of the companies that I have had, those that have succeeded, those that have failed, times where I have felt done wrong by in business, times where I've succeeded, times where I probably did wrong by somebody else and just didn't act in the best way, or I allowed my ego to get in the way. All of those experiences have led me to now. So it would be disingenuous for me to say, do this different, do that different, because I am here right now because of all of the experiences I've had in my life, where I've moved, the hardships, the business wins, the business failures have led me to now. And I'm very grateful for where I am now. I'm grateful to sit on the precipice with this company of potentially really great things that I'm excited about. I enjoy creating what I'm creating. And so it would be tough for me to tell my 27-year-old self to do anything different because that leads to now. And I don't know what different would look like. And so I think the advice really for my 27-year-old self, and to extrapolate out the question you didn't ask, is for anyone in that same position, is learn as much as you can. Put yourself out there, work for free, go and involve yourself in people who you admire, who you think have something to offer to you, work hard, and strive to gain as much out of life as you can. Be generous, give, serve other people. And if you do all of those things and you have a very full life, you will end up in a place that is desirable.
That is incredible. That's like, well, I'm taking that as advice to me, just so you know, because like I feel like I just have so much to learn.
We all do.
I know. And yeah.
I'm a recovering lawyer trying to start a tech company, so trust me.
Yeah.
I'm having to learn all kinds of terms of the software nerds that I have no idea.
Yeah.
What's an API? Is that a restaurant? I don't know. What is that exactly?
Yeah, it's a whole world, man. It's a whole world.
Server called? We do that on the phone? I don't understand how that.
Right.
Just kidding.
Server.
Server. Like, do they bring breadsticks?
Right. Yeah, I think I'm really glad. I'm glad that I've like met you.
Yeah, likewise.
And I'm really glad that we can have conversations like this because I mean I'm glad that I have this podcast because I like literally for an entire month I'm still thinking about my first episode, and I know this is one I'll just be thinking about reflecting on for a while. Because I am in that position where I'm like learning as I do, which is hard to do that. I've been like an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid because I was raised on this under this like system with my parents where I was paying rent ever since I was 8.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like I was paying rent ever since I was 8. It wasn't a lot, okay, because I didn't make big sums of money, but I was getting paid for I was treated financially. I was treated like an employee. I can't say I was treated like an employee because I have great parents.
Sure,
my dad is awesome. Kudos to Dr. Tracy Carford out there, you know. But yeah, I've just been raised to understand money at a young age, and so I was ever since my dad gave me one of his stock accounts when I was 12, and so I've been in the stock market. I'm no good at the stock market, by the way, but
neither am I.
Ever since I was a little kid, just business, make money, because it was cool. Like it was cool that I could create something and somebody could find value in it. Which is very interesting. It's interesting for me to say that right now because I can pull up my developer accounts. I have built probably 30 different apps in the past 5 years.
It's amazing.
And if I showed you it, you'd be blown away because I have made $0. Still to this day, I've made $0 on any single one of my products that I've built, and I've spent all my money building them. I'm a founding engineer, but I am definitely I understand that to build a product, oftentimes I have to involve other people and designers and people to help me out. And so I've spent all my money on like building these things. I haven't made a single dollar yet. I don't know if that's indicative of something negative, but I'm not going to give up. I can tell you that. But I think that's interesting to me because, SaveZ has close to 2,000 users on it now. We have a few hundred businesses, but I'm not charging anybody. So I really have not made $1 yet, but this is the closest I've been to making $1. And I do get emotional because I think, it just kind of speaks to the reality of what we do.
Yeah.
It isn't easy. I learn a ton from people like yourself, Matthew, and I'm grateful to be associated with people like you.
Likewise.
So thank you, and let's just keep going. And maybe one of these podcasts, I'll be able to say, we can all celebrate that I've made $1.
That'd be fantastic. I'll be there with you.
And you best bet I will be one of those people that has the $1 plaqued. Like I will have that thing plaqued everywhere. I'll have a plaque in my office for the rest of my life once I make that $1. But I really am excited to see how Tdooz performs. And while we wrap this up, can you tell us how to find Tdooz, and can you help everybody understand how easy it is to download it and use it?
Yeah, perfect. So Tdooz is found on the App Store and on the Google Play Store. So if you type Tdooz, Tdooz, You can find it on either one of those places. You can also go to Tdooz.com, so Tdooz.com. It'll guide you through into the App Store there as well. But that's the place to find it. We're currently, as of April 25th, 2025, just here in Washington County. We finished beta testing on our web app. Like I said, we just launched the iOS and Android. So we now will spend the next few months, I don't know if you can still call it beta testing, but testing. It's live. It all operates and everything works, but testing, working out kinks, adding more services over the coming months. And then our strategic plan right now is within the next 6 months. So that put us sometime in the fall to be in Las Vegas and start to branch out regionally to Vegas, Phoenix, Salt Lake, Denver. And then, depending on success and funding and everything else, we hope to be nationwide in the next few years.
That is incredible. Wonderful. Yes, everybody download Tdooz.
Please
start
do.
using it. Help Matthew out with his business and support it, because right now in Southern Utah, right, it's available.
Yep, totally available live. Everything works.
This is officially, to all Southern Utahns out there, this is a local company for the short future.
Yes, hopefully very short.
Yes, but support them.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to download Tdooz and start using it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew, for being on
Thanks,
the
Blake.
podcast today.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.